All right, Wiley, dude, I tell you what, so I'm reading your bio. I'm listening to all the stuff that you're doing, and I am so stoked that you and I get to spend a solid, probably half an hour, if not more, just talking shop and talking passion, man. So first of all, welcome to the JK Experience. Thanks so much for making time out of your day, brother.
Absolutely, Josh. I'm happy to be here with you and dive in.
Dude, so looking at your kind of like your career, right? You're a star athlete. You're a competitive bull rider, which from Wyoming, I think that's amazing. That is like, I know how hard that
Yeah.
is, but you didn't stop there though, right? So you
No.
were an elite athlete. You became an elite athlete as a bull rider, but then you also did three tours of combat as well too. So you got into the Army and served our country. Like, dude, what have you not done? First of all, is there anything like that is on the scope of your realm of possibilities you haven't done yet?
Base jump. I think
You haven't done that
run for
yet,
public
really?
office.
Okay. You want to get into politics? I don't know if I
No,
recommend
you know what I want to
that.
do is I want nothing more than to slay the demons of politicians because they're kind of messing up right now.
Amen to that, dude.
Yeah,
I will tell you that we can go down a huge rabbit hole
sure,
with that. But
sure.
I love what you're doing, man. You're the founder of Radical Performance Acceleration, and you also created what is called the High Performance Meditation. And I'm really excited about getting into this stuff because you and I have a lot of commonality. You've got a passion for dealing with elite people because obviously you live so much of your life as an elite man, elite individual as well. Where does your passion come for doing this?
Mm. It's having standards and values first and foremost that you absolutely are unwilling to deter from, and seeing the world and how it operates, knowing at the core of who I am, just knowing myself. For me, the passion is just alive because I care about the impact of how I operate on my environment, on those around me. I care about the way my body operates, the way that I think, the way that I feel on a daily basis. And when anything, I would say, steers away from the most high performance nature of living my life from those standards and values, I can feel it, I sense it, recognize it, and I'm willing to constantly do whatever it takes to improve those little moments of failure or flaw to continue on that path of being my best, because being my best means that those that I impact or affect around me are going to be their best as well. And I've recognized through my life experiences how when other people are not living at their best, they in fact infect our ability to perform at the best of our own capabilities. And I did not want that to be my legacy. So I just lived this life of seeing the pain in the world, seeing the dysfunctions that don't let us as human beings thrive. And I'm committed to going after it. And I'm committing to battling that in the trenches in real time with people so they can get out of the funk and get rid of the pain and suffering that they're used to living with, so that we can all experience what balance, peace, and freedom feels like with our lives.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
One of the things that we talk about often is, and this is something I discovered actually here just recently, and it's amazing that it's taken me this long in my life to realize this, is that, I have this internal fear that for some reason that there's a chance that I might die average. And I think a lot of men, especially those that aspire to do great things in their life, I think deep seated, they probably have that same fear. And so I just kind of want to go back a few years with where you were at as an athlete. And then of course you got into competitive bull riding. Was there ever a hard transition for you, or did it go smooth? So, obviously please tell us the truth of that. Like, what did that look like? How do you go from elite to another elite to then another elite thing
It,
in that period
yeah.
of time?
Yeah, you know what? It wasn't smooth or easy at all. And I want to land at that point for your audience, because I know your audience is all about improving themselves and pushing through their own limits as well. But recognizing that the only way I was able to even transition and succeed in those evolutionary aspects of my life, going from being a star pitcher in baseball to a competitive bull rider, was because it was very difficult, very uncomfortable, and it was full of unknowns that I could not control. So it was really all about understanding and recognizing, if I don't feel fulfilled doing this here, I'm not going to settle for that status quo. And I'm not going to just relax into it and do it because I'm expected to do it. I was born into the world of baseball, having a father who was a semi-pro ball player, growing up around to the likes of Bo Jackson and my dad being friends with Rod Carew and having, all the Terry Clark and Burt Blyleven and, Jim Abbott, the California Angels around. That's the team I grew up around and being trained by when I was a pitcher. But it was this push of being perfect and only focusing on baseball that I was brought into the world with, that as I got older, I recognized I wasn't getting to choose who I wanted to be. I was being molded into something that my father and the people around me expected me to be because of the talent that I possessed. And that's what fractured my thinking and pushed me into these directions to go after the things that really scared me. And I recognized that I didn't see it as elite. I didn't even see it as star anything. It was more along the lines of, who do I want to be? And am I satisfied over here? Am I fulfilled? Is this really the life that I can settle into? And I did not like the answer I got, which is why competitive bull riding became the wild world that ignited that more warrior nature that I'd been waiting to meet, that was not really alive in baseball, despite loving that game. Yeah.
So how many years did you chase the bull riding circuit or the dream?
Well, after, I want to say, 12, 13 years of playing baseball, I did half a decade worth of competitive bull riding.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, you, from there, obviously you didn't, I don't want to make any obvious decisions. So did you leave the sport healthy? In
bull riding itself?
Yeah, because bull riding is such a physically demanding sport. And really the people that I know that chased that dream on the professional side of it, they left the game because they were physically broken. Like they could no longer pursue that dream.
Right.
I got to imagine that you had to be somewhat healthy, because you went into the military. And you got to be, you've got to be physically fit enough to be able to do that.
Right. Well, I was actually bull riding still in the military.
Okay.
So it was a moment of being injured that I recognized again when that severe injury, I would call it, happened. It was a wake up call that it was time for me to move on and let that chapter of my life go. I had learned what I needed to learn through that half a decade of being banged up and pushed around. But the big part of my life, being healthy and young as an athlete, supported my body's ability to handle the absolute butt kicking that comes along with being a bull rider. It wasn't until I actually was forced. Again, I was forced by an experience, an environment, to make a decision to leave that behind and stay focused on that next evolutionary chapter, which was me being in the military, already having a tour under my belt. We were getting ready to go to, we weren't expecting to go to Afghanistan. I got injured, recovered from the injury. September 11th happened and I was in Afghanistan. And I realized that I'm so glad that happened to me, because it pushed me beyond this, feeling comfortable in bull riding, thinking this is something I could pursue. And I recognized I wasn't meant for that either. It was just a life experience to ignite more of what I was actually meant to be doing in that moment.
How many years did you serve?
6
years. Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for doing that.
Absolutely, brother.
We are as messed up of a country as we are to a certain point. We're still the greatest country out there, and it's because of men and women like you that continue to fight for our rights and our freedom. So just completely honor you for doing that.
Appreciate it, brother.
How was the transition from the life that you lived as a military man to civilian life? I had obviously my own unique experience transitioning, and that's something I care to clear up so that people that are listening understand we all are different capacities of experiences coming out of the military. But it was a little rough because I had carried the burden of familial stress my entire life. And then of course, going to war, having those combat experiences, learning about myself in the midst of those extreme chaotic moments. When I got out of the military, it was, what do I do with the energy of this? What I'm carrying around? How do I learn how to build a dial or a spectrum of my reactions to stimuli outside of me? So when I first got out of the military, it was, getting into the world of physical expression, if you will, to deal with stress, to deal with the way in which I was feeling about transitioning back into an environment that wasn't as hostile. But that drove me even further to not live that way. And I didn't want to be that guy. So it was an impetus for me to get on that path of self-mastery, finding resources that would contain me and teach me and train me and push me to face
whatever demons I might have been carrying around inside me. I call stresses, traumas, setbacks, failures, demons, if you will,
Yeah.
and do something about it head on. Like a soldier, battling that in the trenches head on is the only way I recognized that I could eradicate it. And when it was through the eradication and experiencing that peace that kind of resulted as that I found myself tapping into potential I didn't recognize I had. And then my life became what I thought it should have been. And I built something around that and then wanted to turn around and provide other people those types of environments to challenge themselves so they don't have to live with that type of transitional pain or suffering that we tend to see with a lot of veterans that come home from the military.
So is that where this radical performance acceleration was developed in
Yes.
during that period?
Yes.
How long did it take for you to how long did it take for you to develop it?
I think it was years in the making.
Yeah.
A few years after the military. I think it was, it got to the point where I wanted to build something for myself.
Yeah.
I wanted to know as a human being, as a man, what am I capable of accomplishing, not living based on what society sees a man to be, sucking it up, just dealing with it, right? Being stoic, that aggressor, et cetera, disrespecting women, having unhealthy relationships, substance abuse. I said, there's more to this. I can feel it. I intuitively knew it. I recognize the gift that I discovered being a leader in the military and combat, my ability to erupt and expose blind spots in the presence of being with other people in a relationship. I saw that as something to build. And I decided it was time to give other people the experience of acceleration because I got to experience that very same thing. So when I started working with combat veterans, I worked with, some SEALs and Force Recon guys, Army Rangers, et cetera. It was amazing how fast these guys were able to get off their medications, sleep better at night. Their relationships were improving all in a matter of weeks of doing the work with me, which is why I then created that name around it. As one of my clients says, like, this is like radical acceleration of my life. You're doing unbelievable stuff that I can't get anywhere else. Yeah. And that's where it was birthed from. And we decided to just build from there, be behind the scenes, word of mouth, making relationship connections. I started to work with other health professionals, doctors, lawyers. I had clients of mine that were friends of baseball players, et cetera. So it just became this, relationship-based business model that was wrapped around my ability to get into the trenches with people and really slay those demons that are actually plaguing them so they can live their life the way they want to, not what they're stuck enduring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I really liked how you opened this up too, because I know we've talked so much about the military aspect of it, but when you're talking about elite performers, you just opened that door, which was great because there are if you look at CEOs and doctors and attorneys and business owners, they're elite at their level. And, the body doesn't know the different levels of stress in the sense, like they don't know if it's combat stress in a sense. They don't know if it's physical stress. They don't know if it's mental stress. They just realize and recognize it as stress. Right. And depending on how much stress you've been exposed to, what is a stress level for you that might hit about a 5 on your at your level, it might hit an 8 at my level just because I haven't been exposed to the levels that you have been before, right?
Sure.
And so I love that what you're able to do is take your lessons and your passion and use it in the world. Right? You can use it in modern day life in a sense.
Well, that's all goes back to the self-awareness and self-reflection that I possessed, that I was willing to embrace, getting myself to a place of being around people that would challenge me and make me face the ego, make me look at things I maybe don't want to look at as a man, embrace the pain and discomfort that comes from exposing those blind spots. And it drove me to recognize that people have different levels of capacity.
Yeah.
And understanding our capacity, first and foremost, is where that we can stretch that capacity with the challenges we face, the type of resources we hire, et cetera, who are around, is then what allows us to learn how to manage and utilize the normal stresses of life itself, like running companies, being an athlete, doing crazy Olympic stuff, whatever your goals, your ambitions are. Normal stress is part of life. We're going to have that. We're human beings. We're these dynamic creatures. We're an experience, not a process or a system. But also being aware that there are other types of stress that in fact limit your capacity. They hinder your power and potential, and it keeps you fractured from understanding what you're truly capable of achieving, which is what I call acute and chronic stress, and understanding that life's experiences that were really negative or detrimental to you, if they fester inside you long enough and you do nothing about them, they're going to manifest experiences around you that relate to them until you do something about it. Yeah. So that's what I discovered. And that's why these powerful people come to me, is because they've done everything all their life to get to where they're at, and yet they're unfulfilled, they're unsatisfied, they're carrying around this deep-seated dark stress that they don't know what to do with it. And all the resources they've hired haven't really been able to get them to where they really want to be.
Yeah. I think it's so good. I think, as you were talking about that, one of the things that just constantly is coming to my mind is that how important it is to do hard things, right? And how, like, what ends up happening is that because life is bringing so much stress to you, you don't want to go put yourself in more stressful situations. And that's really the opposite of what you need to be doing, right?
Absolutely.
Like, once again, the body doesn't know if the stress that you're going on is either intentional or not intentional. And so the more that you can personally decide to say, okay, I'm going to put my body through stress intentionally, it helps you adapt to the times when it just comes at you unintentionally.
Right.
I'd love for you to talk a little bit about this, because one of the things that I love what you're saying here is that pushing even the elite beyond their limits. Like, what does that mean to you? Like, could you just go a little bit deeper into that? Because I love it. I think it's absolutely inspirational when I read that.
Great. And I want your audience to learn about it too, and understand that people that we emulate, that we respect, these legends, these high-powered, prominent public figures, celebrities, professional athletes, they are all human beings at the end of the day. Obviously, that's a given. But most of them have built their empires on the backs of their unresolved stress from those negative life experiences, because we come into this world surrounded by them. And anybody that says otherwise is just fooling themselves, and they're lying to other people. We have generational stuff that has not been handled on a collective sense. So to dive deeper into that, pushing the elite beyond their limits is understanding, number one, I know I was built to work with powerful people. That's the capacity I possess. That's it. I don't work with the masses. My work is specifically for these leaders. So I can, like I said on my website at wyliemcgraw.com, it's all about slaying the demons of a powerful few to impact the masses and uplift the masses in a positive way. Elite people, just because they've created monetary success, notoriety, and status, does not mean they are living the most optimized versions of themselves. But what's on the surface is what we see as bank accounts, status. People seeing them in the news and on TV. We go, oh my gosh, I want to be like that.
Yeah.
But if you pull the curtain back, majority of them have chaos constantly surrounding them. Their relationships are suffering. Their health is deteriorating. Their mental and emotional focus is off kilter. And they are literally suffering in silence, trying to cope with their life, figuring out how to suppress it, and don't know what to do with it. And then they think that that's not going to impact their performance or the people that they influence. To me, that's what it's all about, is getting these elite people to recognize how well you live your life. And if you're listening to this with Josh and I, it's how well you live your life directly correlates to your performance and your capacity for success. If you can focus on that, getting pushed past your limits, what you're capable of creating and accomplishing grows exponentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I tell you, it's just hitting hard with me, because I know that as I was transitioning from, my sport into normal life, so to speak, right? This
right.
What life is going to look like now after the game. The challenge that I ran into, the frustration that I was getting consumed with, which is finding these men that I thought were elite and amazing and had it all figured out, and coming to find out that they were one-dimensional.
Right.
Really, really good at one dimension of their life, but absolutely horrible in the other 2 to 3 dimensions of themselves. Right. And so it really spoke to me when you said that. So before I move past this, because there's so much that I still want to get to in this conversation, I would love to know, so what does it look like for you personally? Like, how do you push yourself beyond your limits? Whether it's physically, whether it's mentally, emotionally, like how do you, as an elite performer, like, what do those things look like? Because I know that the audience wants to know. I know that I love to know this. Like, what are people doing? Because that's inspirational when people say, I actually do this and this and this.
First and foremost, I have an unbelievably relentless business partner who does not let up on me when I am not operating 100% at my peak. It doesn't mean that I don't have my human experiences of maybe I'm a little less energy today, or I'm tired because I've been going at it, creating and doing my work with individual clients, et cetera, because my work is very taxing. It is very intense.
Yeah.
I only work with maybe 3 powerful people per year. It's very intimate related. It's not a program or a process. So I'm constantly in a state where finding the balance is all that matters. I have an outside source or force that is constantly containing me and keep me at the top of my game. I also put myself in positions where my hobbies challenge me, like my skydiving hobby. I jump out of airplanes for fun. Yes, I absolutely do that. I go to camps to learn and grow my own skills, become safer, comfortable, more expansive in that realm. If something feels awful, but it's related to what it is I'm passionate about. My big thing for you in your baseball career was understanding vision, right? That's a big one. Discipline to vision. I have a vision for what I see out in the world. I recognize that if it's very uncomfortable in that moment and it's related to my vision, I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm going to embrace whatever comes up for me. And I'm going to learn from that reaction while having the right resources or environments containing me so that I can evolve beyond that moment. Because right now what we're doing is we've been building out my new podcast. And that has been a crazy experience to be on the other side and have conversations with great people. Wise Words and Whiskey with Wylie McGraw. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
I love it.
But what's great is it's challenging me to learn quickly in the fire on how to be an interviewer and have conversations with people, learning the ropes as I go. It's been challenging. Same thing with, I've been asked to participate now in a public speaker forum where I'm preparing for a TEDx and I'm going, and that makes me nervous. But at the end of the day, what matters more is if I'm scared of that, if I'm uncomfortable with that, I want your audience to hear this. If it drives that fear to come up, that means real change is facing you. And it's so important to just embrace the unknowns that come with that, because I'm telling you, much like baseball, much like bull riding, much like combat, so many unbelievable opportunities present themselves when you just lean into and embrace that moment. That's why I'm able to keep myself in a place of balance at the top of my game, is because I live by the standards of embracing those moments when they're very scary or uncomfortable.
Wow, that's good, man. This might be a little bit personal, but I'm gonna ask it anyways. Like, what was the last thing that you did intentionally that got you really, really uncomfortable and stretched you?
I decided to go out. Let me back up here. So my mother is 50% Native American. So I've got some Native American blood, and I live quite a bit by the principles of traditional tribes, where it's all about obligation and responsibilities and duties to the land, to the environment, to our health, to ourselves, to others around us. And I wanted to really stretch myself mentally. And I went out and I stayed by myself in the middle of the woods for a week. I just, no cell phone. It was quite the experience, Josh. I mean, I purposely did that to really see what it's not like camping. It's not like being in the military. It was no cell phone, no distractions, no whiskey, no fun things to do. Just me, myself, my thoughts and my emotions, sleeping on, a couple of blankets that I took with me, my camelback, et cetera. And that was it. Learning how to forage and experiencing the land that way was unbelievably scary and rewarding at the same time.
That's awesome. There's a great book. Michael Easter has a book called The Comfort Crisis.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
And I tell you what, it's an awesome book. I love, he basically just kind of describes this adventure that he went on back in the Arctic for, 33 plus days. He had 2 gentlemen with him as well that obviously knew what they were doing, because he didn't know exactly all the things. But he talks about, how important it is for us to experience boredom again. Right? Because we don't experience that. We've got technology, we've got friends, we've got entertainment, we've got business, we've got family, we've got obligations, all these things. But how important it is for us to have intentional boredom, and not just for small moments, but for longer stretches. And I got to imagine, like, you had to have, in that scenario, you must have had long stretches of boredom, but there's all that creativity that probably came from it, which was, you can't, I mean, that had to be so life-giving.
It was 6 days, 5 days, 5 nights, whatever, it was something like that, about a week almost. And it was, What it forced me to do though was connect with my emotions even deeper, my thoughts, recognizing again, I have a very fast moving mind. And so when there's all the noise going on around us, you know, and this is another piece to pay attention to, like you just said it very eloquently, is the distraction organism that is entertainment, the drugs and alcohol industry. We've got porn, we've got, you know, sporting events, etc.
Yeah.
We don't know how to be quiet with our own thoughts and our own emotions. And what it does is it compresses or it gets rid of our capacity to have different types of reactions and responses to stimuli that might challenge us, that might scare us, that might force us to look at something we don't want to look at.
Yeah.
And if we can get to a place, you don't have to go live in the woods, you don't have to do what I've done, but give yourself permission to spend those moments where you're in absolute solitude with yourself. And it's scary for people because what ends up happening is they don't know how to relate to their own thoughts. They don't like what their thoughts are saying to them. They don't like what their emotions are doing. So they want to go right back to the thing that brings that relief and that comfort. It's the same thing I would do with my powerful clients, is giving them in the right containment where I strip them away sometimes of those things that distract them. I don't care who they are, what they're, doesn't matter. And the reactions that come from these unbelievable people, public figures, they've got all of this success and notoriety. And the reactions that I see is the very reason why I go even harder at them to make sure they understand that this is how we erupt and we transform you from within so that you can experience more of that peace. Because the more you get lost in your iPhone, the less peace you're going to experience. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I went out to the woods. I told my wife, I'm like, I'm just going to do it. She's like, okay, I love it. Go for it. Okay.
It's so good to have a spouse that supports that too. So obviously you do a great job making sure that relationship is healthy. So
absolutely.
So I want to talk. I know that we've been going at this for a while already, but I do really want to hit this high performance meditation that you've created. Over the last recent years, I've really got into meditation. Part of it's a little bit frustrating because it's like, as a man, I'm not really into the fluffy fluff stuff.
Yeah.
I want to be a little bit more intentional. I want it to be a little bit more core. I would love for you to kind of go in and with our audience, speak to them about, what do you mean by high performance meditation? What does that look like?
Great. Now let's dive into that. And I will add one little piece to that for your audience is, meditation is also, first and foremost, when you jump into doing it, is about letting go of judgment of how it's supposed to go down and how it's supposed to look and feel. Now, it doesn't mean you can't have choices on, like you said, I want a more impactful, intentional, grittier experience with meditation. Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
There are different forms of it. The other piece is, besides letting go of the judgment, recognizing that meditation can be in different forms. I do dishes, I meditate. I'm in a momentary status of being with myself, cleaning the dishes at night. When I'm outside cutting whatever trees or grass around my property, etc. These are meditative moments. It's all about slowing down and just connecting to your breath, your thoughts, etc. That's good. High performance meditation was understanding the accelerated manner in which we can, in fact, erupt stress that resides within us that we can bypass. I learned over the years from my life experiences, knowing my gift that I came into this world with, and through the formal studies that I went through, that in order to get to those deeper parts of our subconscious, we have to bypass the psyche. How do we do that? Well, we've got to be intentional first and foremost, but you need containment. That's a key word I keep talking about with you. For people to understand, is proper containment is what breeds freedom. Yes. And if you have the proper containment in meditation, yep, it can in fact support circumventing the psyche for you to experience in visuals, images, colors, etc., what relates to stresses that you carry. That in fact is what high performance is all about when it comes to the meditation model that I created. But the other part of it is my ability to get into the deeper parts of a human being is what's coupled with the meditation model itself. And it's what is able to create exponential results in a 20-minute meditation session with a client so that we can, in fact, transition the experience they're going for or going through and watch the results that they want from that experience happen in a much more accelerated manner. So that's the nature of that model that I created. It is something I do. It's not a thing I can teach to people. I've had clients try to do it on their own. They're like, well, I can't I can't get the same things I get with you. I'm like, because your psyche is designed to protect you from that very ugly truth. With me, and I'm sitting with you, have you do certain things, say certain things, breathe a certain way. I'm able to hold that space for you, that containment, so that you can't hide from that. And it comes up and out through our conversation afterwards. And then I relate it to what's going on. They're able to release it and experience that peace that comes from that. And then the next thing you know, 24, 48 hours later, results start to show up based on whatever the focus might have been on that meditation.
Wow. That's awesome. Well, I know you can't, obviously you can't help everybody out, right? That's exactly what you do. You help you help the few so that they can be grand in this, right? Just when it comes to meditation, I know a lot of people get intimidated by it.
Sure.
A lot of people don't know even where to start with it.
Right.
Any pointers where, because it is so important. I think we both recognize that. Any pointers that you would recommend to people that don't even know how to start, or maybe aren't even getting anything out of it?
Actually, a couple of great pointers. And you just actually reminded me of a gentleman I worked with, this hedge fund team many years ago. And he was a man of faith, and I respect that. And he brought up meditation to him leads him down a path of darkness. That's exactly what he said. And I said, well, let's have a conversation, pulled him aside. And I said, maybe it's time to, and I reframed it for him. I said, maybe it's time to consider that meditation makes you see the darkness you still possess within you. Mm-hmm. And he said, holy mackerel, I've never thought about it that way. And it scared him. And I said, rightfully so, I understand it. He goes, that's why I don't meditate. And I said, I get it. You don't have to do it. But I want you to be aware of that when you go into meditation, meditation isn't about taking you down a path. It's about slowing down and becoming more intimately connected with yourself, getting answers you otherwise would never hear in any other format. For people that are listening and going, where do I start? It's as simple as breath. It's as simple as sitting down and focusing on counting your breaths. Maybe you could do what we do in the military called square breathing. Yeah. I don't know if you've heard of that, where you breathe.
Box breathing.
Right. Yep. Box breathing, square breathing. And our snipers do that. A lot of us as combat, infantry, frontline guys, airborne SEALs, we do that in these high stress moments to slow our heart rate, to clear our thoughts, and to become a little bit more efficient in what we're doing. And it's all about timing that breath. Start there. That's a great way to get into meditation, because meditation in itself is not, the yogi wearing the turban. It is truly about presence, slowing down, and just staying connected to yourself. Doesn't matter what it looks like, how it sounds, or whatever results you get. If you can start small, just sitting down for a moment, even with your eyes open, and just connecting to your breath and just being present, letting your thoughts do whatever they want to do. Don't judge it. Don't try to stop your thoughts. Big part of that, Josh, I've heard this is meditation sucks because I don't know how to quiet my mind or stop my thoughts. Well, stopping your thoughts is like trying to stop your heartbeat. I'm not going to do it. Mm-hmm. I would give the pointers there. That's how I started when I got out of the military with meditation. I got turned on by it through breath work from the military. And I realized, when I sit down for 15 minutes, and I just focus on breathing, I actually find my nervous system calming down. I find myself getting a little more clarity on the situation I just went through. Instead of punching that guy in the face, I may just go have a very harsh conversation with them to confront whatever I didn't like about it. It started to change my approach. It created space within my mind to choose my reactions versus just having this like knee-jerk experience. So it's as simple as giving yourself permission to not judge it and starting with your breath. That's the way I would do it.
Love it, man. Holy cow. This was so good, dude. I know that I could keep going on this, but I want to respect your time and our audience's time as always. Yeah. So as we wrap this up here, first of all, it sounds like you like your Scotch whiskey.
I do.
Right. Is there any flavors of choice that are really, really good for you?
So it's the only thing I enjoy. I'm not a frequent drinker. I'm all about my balance. Yeah. I have it maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks, depending on the mood. Sure. I never drink to cope or deal with stress. It's always because I want to have the experience and just enjoy myself. So if I feel stress, I won't touch it. And that's a big part of it. But I'm a big Speyside and Highlands single malt guy when it comes to the area of Scotland. I'll drink a little bourbon. I'll drink some good Irish whiskey. I have no problem. I'm not going to be that picky. But if my choice is my single malt scotches from those regions, not to say I don't like a good smoky single malt every once in a while, but again, that's my choice.
I love that we just went off the rails a little bit, and you got your normal guy. So that's good. That's always good. Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I think we put people on these pedestals and you're like, the guy doesn't have any, the guy's got no flaws or weaknesses. Like, no, I'm still an average guy. I still love my scotch, man. We're good.
I mean, I jump out of airplanes. I have relationships. I have moments where I get frustrated and I get angry. Like, it's just a matter of understanding myself and knowing how to manage it and utilizing it for myself to continue down a good path versus it letting me something that takes me down and causing problems in my life. That's the difference. So, yeah.
Well, and I just love it. I mean, I was talking to one of our leaders the other day, and we were kind of getting frustrated with some individuals about some decisions that they were making, and it's just like, hey, listen, we can't, like, as I was talking, I was like, you can't judge how they're reacting now because they haven't spent the time to work on themselves like we have, right? And so I just honor you for doing that because as we know, when you get that transition from an elite career and you get into that other chapter, whether it's because you chose to do it or because it was forced upon you, you've got to make another decision to become elite in that next phase of life. You know?
Absolutely.
And you've done an exceptionally great job of that.
That's what you do too, Josh. I mean, you brought your experiences to the table so you can provide people that have not arrived at that place yet the actual tools, the inspiration, the pathways for them to face what they need to so they can get to that level. Because we're all capable of accomplishing our own unique elite level of performance. It doesn't mean you're going to be the next Jeff Bezos, and that's okay if you're not. It's all about recognizing how can I get to the top of my game personally first, and then what can I turn around and provide to others around me to do the same for them. And that's the whole point of a vision.
That's exactly right, brother. And knowing your purpose, right?
Knowing your purpose.
What you're out there for do, man. So
absolutely,
man, you've done a phenomenal job of finding and discovering your purpose and obviously making great impact in those that you're able to serve. I know you only work with a few people, but how do people follow you? How do people I guarantee you people are going to be like, okay, I need to know more about this guy.
Yeah.
Where do they track you down? What does that look like?
Hey, look, that's the whole point of why we're creating this unbelievable podcast called Wise Words and Whiskey with Wylie McGraw. It's all about low-key conversations on high performance living, bringing in unique, cool people on, having a little sip of some really interesting whiskeys that we can share with the audience, letting them kick back, kick off their shoes, pour themselves a nice dram, and just listen to these insights, these wise words that we pull out in conversation that provide them avenues towards a more optimal life, more peace and freedom with their successes. So it's to give them a different side of me as well, to recognize that when I'm not doing my demon slaying work, if you will, over here, that's intense with these powerful people, there's Wylie is another version here too. I've got that kickback fireside chat side. So I want people to connect. I want them to subscribe to the show when it comes out at the end of October. I want them to enjoy reading about the philosophies that I discovered that really challenge and stretch human capacity, so people can all live from a place of that high performance living that I'm so passionately connected to and wanting to experience in the world today. So that's one place. It's Wise Words and Whiskey with Wylie McGraw, but then they can go to wyliemcgraw.com. Right there, I'm doing a giveaway for a premium bottle of whiskey, rock set engraved with the logo as well, and a chance for someone to come on the show and be a guest.
Awesome. Love it, dude. I will most certainly be, we'll definitely promoting that. And then I'll go to the website myself. So you might be seeing a sign up from me, man. That is awesome.
It's there, brother. Absolutely. I'm more the merrier, and more people can hang out with us and have a good time. That's what it's all about. I do not discriminate. So regardless of what your level is, despite you can work with me directly or not, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Let's have great conversation. Let's transform our lives, and let's provide valuable insights that really give people that almost peace of mind to know that they can do it too.
Yeah, I love it, dude. Well, we say this all the time is, let's go live epically, right? Let's go live epically.
Absolutely.
Brother, I have absolutely enjoyed this. I knew this was going to be a great conversation, and it was everything and then more. So thank you so much for giving up your time and just pouring into this audience and myself for sure, man. This has just been an awesome opportunity for us.
I share in your sentiments, Josh. Thank you so much, and to your audience for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right, you guys. Hey, this was I mean, was this awesome or what? And I tell you what, I cannot wait to check more of Wylie out. I can't wait. I'm really excited about his podcast. I mean, first of all, you can't pick a better title than that. Or maybe just the JK Experience. I mean, that's a good one too. But obviously his title is absolutely intriguing, and he's going to continue to bring some value in that. So as always, there's no admission for this podcast. You know that all we ask you to do is to get this into the hands of somebody that you know needs to hear this. So absolutely love you. Have a fantastic rest of your week, and we'll talk to you soon.